You know, it's funny, this idea of somebody being like a walking exclamation point, all energy all the time. But then you really dig into their story and whoa, there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, like a lot more. And that's exactly what we're doing today, diving deep, deep, deep into the story of Addy Lumm.
It's that contrast, really, that drew me to her in the first place, to be honest. You don't expect the quiet stuff when you first encounter,
Yeah.
all that energy.
Right. It's like we've got all this material to work with too, character sketches, her own reflections, even these like fictional dialogue she wrote, it's a whole personality mosaic, you know.
Absolutely, yeah.
But it's almost like she's trying to outrun something. The more we uncover, the more I get this vibe, this underlying tension.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. That live fast, die young kind
Yeah.
of energy. It's like a common thread
Yeah.
through all these materials, like he masks something,
Yeah.
a deeper struggle. And when you factor in Addie's past, especially her dad, their relationship, and then losing her mom so young,
It makes you wonder. Yeah.
makes you wonder if that need to just grab life by the horns, to live totally in the moment, it's almost like it comes from a place of grief, maybe.
I'm here for a good time, not a long time.
Right,
Classic Addy. But it hits different now.
right.
It's heavier, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Because on the one hand, it's about seizing the day, right? But it also might hint at why maybe the past is painful, the future's uncertain, so you cling to the now. And that's where I think the fire symbolism comes in.
Yes. Fire everywhere with Addy. It's that impulsiveness, that zest for life, but it's also warmth, creation even. You said it yourself. And it's not all like metaphorical either. Her love for camping, especially in Australia, it's like she's chasing some very specific kind of freedom.
The kind of freedom maybe that she remembers from those camping trips, she mentions them in those reflections, those wide open spaces, being close to nature, maybe even feeling close to her mom back then. She's the one who gave her that red bandana she always keeps close.
Wow. It's like those trips, they're this idealized world almost, a refuge from everything else in her life, past and present.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing about Addie. Freedom, independence, those are huge. But she also needs connection. The later days crew, they're her anchor in a lot of ways.
Which is so interesting, right? Because on the surface, she seems like such a lone wolf, independent woman, you
Right.
know? But those relationships, those are everything to her. They really show that tension, that push and pulls, but she wants to be close, but it's like she's afraid to let people in.
And that makes sense. Given what happened with her mom, it makes you think about the way loss shapes us. But let's break down those relationships a bit. What about that moment with Bannock by the river?
Oh, you mean where she almost jumps in even though she admits she can't swim? Talk about a vulnerable moment.
Right. It's like by facing that fear of the water, being totally honest with Bannock, I don't know, it's almost like she's facing this deeper fear too. The fear of letting herself be vulnerable, period, of relying on someone else.
That is such a good point. And then you've got her dynamic with Devin, which is like this constant, playful, I don't know, tug of war between being optimistic and, well, being Addy.
But it's fascinating though, isn't it? She manages to find that amulet, the ancient one, when they're in the forest.
It's like her energy just like bends luck, you know?
It's kind of amazing.
It's frustrating and endearing, which is a pretty good way to sum up Addy in general, if you ask me. And then Kelly.
Oh, Kelly, yes.
Really, Kelly?
The gardening incident.
Yeah.
Memorable, to say the least.
Addy sets her prize-winning plant on fire. I mean, are we really surprised, though, at this point? But it's Addy's reaction that's telling. She is genuinely sorry, like truly remorseful, and she bends over backward to make it right, which to me shows growth.
Definitely. And I think that's a theme with her, if we're being honest, this constant push and pull between impulsivity and empathy, that ability to take responsibility.
Yeah.
It's what makes analyzing her so interesting.
No kidding. But it does seem like those impulses, that fire, maybe it cools down a little as she gets older. Like maybe some of that boundless energy is giving way to something quieter, more thoughtful, maybe.
You're picking up on something there.
Addy?
And we see it in how her own writing changes, too. It's almost like Addie herself is realizing something's different.
And it's not just like less energy, right? It's almost like there's a sadness there too, a little bit. Like she misses that younger version of herself even.
That is really insightful because she actually says that almost word for word in one of those reflection pieces. She says, I don't really have as much energy to do those things. Or maybe my whole worldview has shifted. Or God forbid I've matured. That God forbid just gets me.
It's so telling. Like a part of her is fighting it, this totally natural progression, becoming an adult, all that, which makes you think, is growing up always good? Or is there some loss that comes with it? Like you trade one thing for another, but it's not always an even trade.
Oh, absolutely. It's a huge question.
Hmm.
We don't even think about it usually. We shed those old versions of ourselves. We see the world differently. But yeah, letting go of who you were, it can be bittersweet,
Hmm.
for sure.
Especially for someone like Addie, right? So much of her identity, even now, is wrapped up in being youthful, being that fiery personality. But, and here's the thing, she even says she feels muted sometimes, but she still finds ways to channel that energy. Like, she becomes the inventory person during Colony Quest, which, knowing Addie, was probably a very spur-of-the-moment, sure, why not, kind of situation.
And yet, it shows how adaptable she is too.
Yeah.
Like maybe she's looking for new outlets for that energy, right? New ways to be helpful, even if it doesn't exactly scream Addy Lumm from the rooftops.
It makes you wonder, too, if that's part of what she's struggling with, trying to make sense of this new, I don't know, more mature version of herself while still holding on to who she feels she is, you know?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
The classic identity crisis, right? When those
Yeah.
labels don't fit anymore and you're stuck with, who am I now?
It's enough to make you want to hand her a self-help book and a cup of herbal tea, honestly. And speaking of self-help, can we just talk about her self-improvement notes for a minute? Because, wow.
I'll be honest, I chuckled when I read those.
Hmm.
Even her approach to, like, bettering herself, it's so Addy.
It really is. She starts with, I could work on thinking things through, which, okay, no argument there. But then it's just like, come to think of it, there's a lot of stuff I could work on. Like, the realization hits.
It's like she realized that self-improvement, it's not a to-do list you check off,
Yeah.
It's this ongoing thing,
Yeah.
a process. And starting can be the hardest part, especially when you aren't even sure where to begin.
It's like staring up at Everest with a busted compass and some crumbs from a granola bar. You know it's going to be a trek, but hey, at least you acknowledge the mountains there.
Exactly. Just recognizing it is huge. Even if she throws in that little bit of humor, like always that self-awareness is a big deal. Even without all the answers, she's asking the questions, and that matters.
It's that whole like work in progress thing too. Everyone relates to that. Everyone has those moments where you look in the mirror and you're like, okay, maybe some minor adjustments are needed here.
All of us. We're all just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
Constantly changing. And Addie, with all that fire, all those contradictions, she's no different. But there's this one thing that keeps coming up. A symbol, almost. And it feels important. That red bandana.
Oh, yeah, the bandana. It's more than just a piece of fabric at this point, isn't it? It's like a deeper meaning there, something that might help us understand those lingering questions about her, well, her inner world,
Totally. It's that connection to her mom, to those carefree days camping out under the Australian sky. But it's also something else, something more.
It's almost like a reminder of the loss, The camping trips, maybe they were the last time she really felt that carefree, that safe, secure feeling you have as a kid before losing her mom.
It's heartbreaking, honestly, when you think about it like that. That red bandana, it's both, It's love and loss, warmth, but also absence. Like a physical link to a past she just can't outrun no matter how much she tries to live in the moment.
And that makes those impulses make more sense.
Right.
That need to be in control. It's like she's trying to outrun that grief, just like she tried to outrun being scared of the water with Bannock.
Wow. Yeah. Powerful parallel. And it really makes you think, what if she did confront it head on? The grief, I mean. What would happen then? Would it change things? Could she let go of that whole live fast thing then? Could she let people get close?
It's the question, isn't it? Because even as she gets older, even as she finds those people, those connections with the later days crew, she still holds on to that bandana. Like it's this last piece of her childhood,
I mean, it's not even holding on exactly. Maybe it's more like she's figuring out how to make it all fit together, the past, the present, how to be this new Addie, but keep those experiences with her somehow. See the pain, but also how strong it made her, all of that.
I like that. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about carrying it with you in a way that, I don't know, honors who you were, who you are. Maybe that's the real journey for her. Not like self-improvement on this huge scale, but just making peace with her own story. All the messy parts included.
And maybe, just maybe, that red bandana, it'll go from being this reminder of what she lost to a reminder of how far she's come, how much she's survived.
That is... wow, that's deep, even for a deep dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling for Addie right now, big time. And it makes you think about your own red bandanas, doesn't it? Those things we all hold on to, the stories we tell ourselves.
100%. Because it reminds us, even the people who seem really straightforward, they've got layers, hidden depths. Everyone's more complicated than they seem, and those complications are worth exploring.
That's why we do this, right? Never know what you'll find. So, to everyone listening, thanks for geeking out with us on Addy Lumm. Maybe we don't have every answer, but I think we asked some pretty good questions today.
And isn't that the sign of a good deep dive? Really, it's not about tying it all up neatly. It's about leaving you with more to think about than when you started.